Hi, I'm Chef Tiffany Nicole, and welcome to A Recipe for Life. Hey everybody, welcome back to A Recipe for Life. Today, for my guest, I have made a shrimp po' boy. My guests today are Brandon and Lauren Oldham. Hello guys.
Hello.
Thank you
for
so much
having
for being
us.
here. Yeah, so I made them a little spicy tartar sauce. Brandon decided to bring the entire bowl of it over here. So yeah, y'all go ahead and dig in. I hope you like it. It's a little spicy. Is it really spicy? Oh no, Lauren.
There's definitely some spice,
You're
but
a
it's
child.
good.
No, don't do it.
She likes spice.
Oh, okay, good.
Yeah.
I love spicy food.
Okay, good. I'm like, no.
There's a
Spicy
kick to
chips,
it, but it's
spicy
good.
chicken,
Is it
spicy
too
everything.
spicy?
No, I can
Take it.
definitely eat that and just drink water right afterwards.
Oh, it's really spicy. I know, I'm sorry.
It has flavor. It has a really good flavor. I like it.
Okay,
Don't be a wimp. Don't embarrass me.
I'm a wimp when it comes to spice, but it is really good.
Hey everybody, and welcome back to A Recipe for Life. This space that I have created is just to talk to different folks within our community, entrepreneurs, and just community members, kind of about their journey in life, in love, and professionally. I personally found myself years ago, kind of feeling lost, and what I really held on to was hearing other folks' journeys, what they've overcome, and kind of how they got through some of life's major challenges. So today, with Brandon and Lauren, we're gonna just dive right into the conversation. A Recipe for Life is a place to heal, love, and inspire. So the first question, because we always want to keep food front and center, is what food or meal has some type of just like really nostalgic like memory or just some special meaning to you? I think that what we've learned a lot with this question is that a lot of people always find that it's not necessarily what the food is, it's more so like what may have been going on around the time that they ate that food. So for you, Brandon, what would that be?
Well, for me, the first thing I think of when you ask a question like that around food and its meaning is really Hamburger Helper. Like, to be completely honest with you, just growing up, I remember trying to be independent, trying to help my parents, and so cooking Hamburger Helper was one of the things that I figured out how to do in order to really prep a meal that my siblings could eat, and we could just sit around and enjoy it. And then the flip side of that is, oh man, my mom used to make the best fried pork chops.
Ooh.
And so I just remember she would always make the the pork chops and the sides and everything. And all I wanted to do was take that pork chop, put it on some white bread, and make a sandwich.
With hot sauce or ketchup?
Definitely ketchup.
Really? Oh my
hot sauce
God.
is so hot. I'm a win when it
Oh,
comes to
that's
spice.
right.
Yeah.
Lauren?
So mine, you kind of touched on it today with the po' boy. So mine is fried shrimp and fries.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so when I was younger, my family wanted to do something unique for Christmas. Most of the time everyone's having the traditional Thanksgiving and Christmas meal with the big ham and turkey and all the sides. And so when I was really young, my dad asked us what do you guys want to eat on Christmas Eve? And at the time we were we want fried shrimp, French fries, and crab legs. And that was it, and that was how the Mitchum tradition was born. And so every year since then, we've always had some iteration of that. And so even when Brandon and I were dating, and he came home with me for Christmas, he was like, "All right, we eat fried shrimp, French fries, and crab legs on Christmas Eve." And I was like, "That's what we do."
I love that. I think that for me, also really not to do traditional food on Christmas, just because I'm I don't know, I don't ever really crave dressing and turkey, except for on Thanksgiving. But beyond that, there's no other time of the year that I want it. I just don't have to have it. My grandmother, I love you, Granny, but she used to make it a lot, because it is delicious, but it's just I don't want that. It's just so heavy, and it's I only need it that one day of the year. Well, say one day, because you'll eat leftovers.
Yeah, exactly.
A few, yes. So the next question is, I know you all both, Lauren, you being an attorney, and Brandon, you having so many different, roles that you play within the community. So this is kind of like a hard transition, but when I was younger, like in my 20s, like coming out of college, I remember literally feeling like, man, like I have messed up. I have no purpose in life. I don't know what I'm doing. Like, I don't know. Like when I graduated from OU, I remember like just feeling like, initially I was working for the Thunder and I loved it, but I was just like, I don't know what I want to do. Like, I mean, this is great, but my internship is over. Now what? So what would you all say, and first will you give like kind of just like a overview of what you all do, and then also just what you would say to like your younger self or to someone that may be in that position now that's like, man, like I don't know what I'm gonna do, or I'm like completely blew it at this point.
Yeah. It's such a good question, and really the first thing that pops out is like, if you have not hit that point, then you're actually like missing something. Like the earlier or the sooner you can hit that point of just like questioning self, because what it's showing is now you have a certain level of cognitive ability, but also like critical thinking to think through everything that you've been giving in life and try to process it into something that makes sense for this new version of you. And so I would encourage people to try to hit that point sooner than later. And even if you hit it later, then again you have something that you can really be building upon. And so for me, like, I think starting off in my career, I was very confused. I went to college, first generation college student, but getting into college was really like, that was a milestone for me. It wasn't coming out on the other end or thinking about a job. It was just getting to college.
Yeah.
And so once I got there, I was like, okay, like we're good, right?
I did it.
Yeah. And so then to think about, like, okay, I'm going to these classes, I'm doing these things, like, oh, people are talking about an internship. Oh, I didn't think about that. And just, I remember some people coming in, honestly, like, the whole thing, like, they had it planned out.
Right.
And I was like, uh-oh.
Yeah.
I don't know. So it was just to be there, and then it became, like, to stay there. And then I'll never forget going to my session with the admissions counselor around, like, courses and whatnot, and they were just like, hey, this is it. Like, you have 12 more credits,
like,
and you graduate. And I was like,
You gotta go.
wait, y'all let me out of here?
Right. So now what?
Like, I just figured it out.
Right.
And so it just got to a point, within that, like, I didn't do a field that was very technical. I did public relations and journalism.
Yeah.
And so it wasn't like, this technical skill that you gain, but what I really garnered was like, I picked up so many things along the way in terms of how to manage emotions, how to talk through things, how to think critically and solve problems. But ultimately, it was more so around like, I've learned how to approach issues and figure out ways that we might practically solve them.
I think that's the biggest thing with college in general, is it teaches you kind of like how to be a part of a team, how to like create a schedule, how to like be somewhere on time. Like,
Right.
I think those are the biggest takeaways, because I was the same way. Like, I was raised by a stay-at-home mom and an entrepreneur. So like, to go to college, I was like, I don't want to do none of these jobs. I want to do something creative. Like, I want to do something that I enjoy. Like, I see my dad go make music, and he's taking care of us, so why can't I do something? Make me some music, like, I mean, I can't make music,
but it was along those same veins. It was just like, you either, go off and you're, I would say engineer, because that was literally what everyone said when I was going to college, like, go be an engineer, they make the most money. And it's like, what if I want to do something more creative? But it was always around the, like, you can't make money doing that. You can't make money doing that.
Yeah.
And I think once I stopped thinking about, like, money as the motivator, everything just started to fall into place.
Yeah. And I think for me, it's just like, I never believed that I couldn't make money doing a certain thing. I mean, my dad did both of his passions, so I felt like it was possible. I think that what I'm learning is that, like, kids that are raised by entrepreneurs have a different kind of outlook on what's possible sometimes. And not to say that, kids that are raised by parents that work traditional jobs don't, but I think for me, it was just always like, I can do whatever I want to do.
Yeah.
I didn't know it was gonna be hard, but
that's real.
Right.
That is real.
Because from my daddy, I met my daddy when he already made it. So I didn't see my daddy trying. I saw my daddy like being. So it was like, wait a second, this don't feel, But
I missed something.
Yeah, like, am I doing this wrong? So now
Lauren,
my mom pulls out. Oh yeah.
I was just like, Lauren, you've seen a bunch of different iterations.
Yeah. No, I was also skeptical too. Like, whenever people, especially in law school, are like, oh, I'm going to law school to be this type of attorney. I was just like, how do you know? Like, we just got here and there's so many different practice areas. It just seems so strange when people were so confident so early on without trying a bunch of things.
Yeah.
And honestly, I mean, I was kind of like you. I didn't know either. So, you know, business management for undergrad. I was about to graduate. I did not have a job lined up. And so I was like, what do I do? What can I do that will buy me more time, but also not disappoint my parents?
Right.
And so for me, I was like, okay, more education, right? Like, who's going to be mad if their kid goes back to school? And so I actually, like, on a whim, like, applied to law school.
Are you serious?
And then through that decided I was going to do the JD MBA program because it was an extra year. So it was a 4-year program for 2 degrees. And I was like, surely by like the end of 4 years, like I will have known what I wanted to do or what I want to do. And it was the best thing like I ever decided. I remember like after like the first couple of weeks, I was like, okay, like I'm supposed to be here. I didn't know what I wanted to do, but I was like, okay, like this is tapping into like my logical thinking and my interests and my different perspectives and being able to see like 2 sides of the same coin. I just kind of had like this aha moment, but honestly, I did not have that moment going into law school. And so I don't know, I would just like tell my younger self or other people, like just keep moving forward, right? Even if you don't know, as long as like you're progressing, right? You're gonna have that time to figure it out and you'll have that moment. Just keep moving forward towards that direction, and eventually, you know, through like life experiences and other things, you're gonna have that moment like, okay, this is where I'm supposed to be.
Yeah, I think that is so good because, especially coming from you two, I remember the first time we had a Christmas party or something over here, and my little sister like came in and she looked at everyone and she was like, man, all of your friends have it together. And I was like, what made you say that? And she was like, I can just tell, like, I know one of your friends is an attorney, and then she's like, I know your one friend opened up a book, like she was just saying all the different stuff, and I was like, well, yeah, I was like, but I mean, we also are humans and we've lived real life and we don't always have it figured out. We just make it look good.
Exactly, right? Like if
So,
you make it.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of a lot of the, I think everyone, like as an adult, we're kind of winging it a little bit.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I think that's true. It takes me back to this course that if it existed while we were in undergrad, I would have been in it. And it was for students who made like a very bad GPA. So you would have to like take this course in order to continue at
Is the OU? Oh,
okay. It didn't exist when we were in undergrad,
okay.
But now it does. And so I was an adjunct professor for it, and we had some improv comedians come in for a session with the class. And originally, like the first time we went through, I was like, I have no idea how this connects to like this course. Like what's going on here? But really, they went through all the improv and they just kept talking about like, you don't know what's coming next. You're building off of whatever action was taken by, you know, in the previous line or whatnot. And really, you just keep moving forward. Like you keep just processing it in real time and leaning on one another as you do the act. And it really did kind of resonate with me because it's like, it's kind of what we're all doing as well. Like,
right.
Even though we're no longer in whether it's in college or in formal education,
right.
Like we're still taking in information, processing it, and making a decision, like just to keep, you know, moving forward. Or in some cases, like a pivot. Like,
yeah.
There's been some case where, you know, you make a very hard pivot, not necessarily because it was what you knew you were going to do historically,
right.
But based on all the information you have, it's like, this is the best course of action, and you just go with it.
Right, right. No, I recently just had to do like a big pivot with the show. I had a whole different plan and a whole like team of folks behind me that were like ready to give me money for the idea. And as I went into it, it was like, wait a second, like I can shoot this beautiful polished pilot and you know send it out and shop it and do all this, but is that the best use of these funds? Is that the best use of my time? Like what's gonna happen then? So I had to make a decision, and at the time it felt like, am I tripping? But it was like, no, I just had time to kind of like sit back, reevaluate, and like, okay, this is actually the way I need to go with this.
What does that know? Like when you get to that point, like, what does that feel like? Like like everything is there, everything is laid out, but in your gut, it's like, no, this isn't the move.
Yeah, I think for me is understanding like my long-term goals and understanding like what I want to see happen and what I want my legacy to look like with whatever I'm doing. And so it comes less about having money and access to do it, and more about like, does this make sense for my future? And I think a lot of times, especially like younger folks, I know for me when I was younger, it always was like, if I had the money, I'd do this. If I had the money, I'd do this. And it's just like,
same.
Once you understand money and that it's literally just a tool to do certain things, it's like, okay, that's not always what that means.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I think that was for me. It was just like I started doing it and I was like, this don't make sense. It don't matter that this is my original plan. I'm gonna have to go back to the drawing board, sit around these folks and let them know. I felt so like intimidated to do it, but then they like congratulated me and I was like, oh, this is a totally different reaction. I thought they were gonna be like, well, you wasted our time, but they were like, we are just so happy that through your journey you were able to identify that and you didn't just say like, no, let's just press play because this is what I said I was gonna do, and then it just didn't make sense. So
yeah, that to me has been super shocking as I've been working more and more in entrepreneurship and entrepreneurship supports, is this idea that an entrepreneur turning down money, it's actually like a positive step that can propel people forward.
Yeah.
Whether it's, it's not the right time to take on capital, it's not the right time for that capital, or it's not the appropriate type of capital.
Yeah.
Again, my younger self would have been like, money, I need it, I'll take it.
And it's not even all about that. And I used to think the same thing. And I think it's just because I think culturally too, it's kind of like, because I had a cousin, he wants to start some business, like clothing or shoes or something, I can't remember. And I'm like, so what do you need? And he's like, shoot, just need some money. And it's like, but what's your plan? And when you get this money, what are you gonna do with it? Like,
that's also been like such a hard lesson. I want to say a hard lesson. It's really been like a core lesson in learning for me working in philanthropy is understanding like money is a tool.
Yep.
It's the first thing that, like, yes, there's an idea of like startup capital or seed capital, but the understanding that money like will solve all of the issues, like it's not true.
It's not. I actually learned that, we have been around a lot of folks that have a lot of money, and yeah, I mean, it's not the answer to everything, and it doesn't make life just so great. And I think that when you have more of a like what do you call it? Like kind of a lack mindset or like a poverty mindset. You kind of look at everything like, if I had this opportunity or if I had this, but when you come from an abundant mindset, it's like, okay, well, what actually makes sense in this, where I'm at now, or like, what do I actually need? You don't look at it from like, if I have this money, then and it's just like, because you don't make your best decisions when you're approaching situations like that, because then you're approaching things out of desperation and making decisions that may not be the best in the long run, But I think that's just a process that you kind of have to learn by going through it, and also by like having access to something, and then maybe not having access like in another part of your, or another season of your life, and then it makes you like respect it and just understand like it's not all about that.
There's a lesson in that Lauren actually showed me within our relationship, just about it's okay to like buy things and do things for yourself, whether it's as a reward or even if it's just, hey, I just want this and I can do that. And I would always feel that like deficit mindset, just like, hey, I probably shouldn't do this, and I really had a moment where I was working through like, am I doing this for like 10-year-old, 16-year-old Brandon, or is this like what 34, 35, like 36-year-old Brandon like wants? And I'm glad to say I really do love sneakers.
At the end of it all, this is what
I actually really do.
Well, that's the funny thing. I think too, like for me, and this may sound like super black and super like, girl, whatever, but over the last couple of years, like my business has done the best that it's done since it's been in existence, and thank you. And I always thought like, I'm about to buy me the best car, I'm about to get me a new car, and it's like, I don't think I want any of those things. Does Gucci deserve as much of my money? Like,
no, really.
I'm appalled that you got that. I'm definitely just learning, and like ever since I was a little girl though, like my daddy used to say this thing where he was like, I could give you $1,000 and Danielle $1,000 and we'll be in LA and you'll come back. He was like, you'll go to Melrose and get, because I love like thrifty shops and like quirky weird stuff. And so he was like, you'll come back with like 4 bags full of things, and Danielle would come back with a Chanel bag. Or, well, not Chanel bag for $1,000, but you know what I mean.
And
and she was like, but I've always kind of just been, and I think
That's
just
funny.
looking up to my sister or looking up to my mom, I always felt like those were the things I need to aspire to, but it's like, it's just not my thing. Like, I do like some of it, you know, but I'm way more into like some funky jewelry or like some random like platform shoes or like just something like, and that's just me, and that's just kind of, it's kind of like the Beyonce and Solange. Like I always say about me and my sister, like I'm definitely more on the Solange side of things. So okay, so the next question is who is someone that you feel like has inspired you through your journey, and why? And you can use more than one person. And it could be in any season, or it relates to like your marriage or your business or whatever. It could be anything.
This has always been a hard question for me when people ask, like, who's your role model? Who do you look up to?
It's Beyonce. No.
We got married on her birthday.
Yeah.
So it's Beyonce. No. Actually, it's my dad.
I knew it. You always get shy to say it, but it's so true.
It's the best thing.
It's so true.
It's my dad. Like, just hearing his story, you know, parents were immigrants coming to the United States and growing up in Detroit. So his mother, she's Indian, but she was born in Jamaica. Huh?
That's your grandma.
My grandmother. My grandmother, she's Indian, but she was born in Jamaica.
Oh, okay.
Migrated to the United States, where she met my grandfather in Detroit. And so that's, you know, where my dad came from. And it definitely was not an easy life. So, at a young age, his father was killed in a car accident. His older brother was shot and killed. Then my grandmother passed away from alcohol abuse, just having a really rough life. So just him and my aunt, his sister. But just hearing his story and really just how he like persevered through life. I mean, he always told me, my sister, like anything is possible. He instilled in us that like you are just as good, if not better, which is really important to hear as like a Black female. And he made sure that we understood that. And you know, I think he's probably the reason like I became an attorney. I think there's multiple paths, right, to success, but one of them, you know, if you're not super talented at cooking or singing or an athlete, is education. And so from like a super young age, he made sure I knew like you are capable of doing great things and going to college and, you know, achieving these dreams. And it's just something that like has stuck with me and really has like, I think, motivated and like propelled me to go on and get these advanced degrees and kind of pursue this profession. And as much as like I hate, as much as like sometimes we butt heads, right, because we're so similar, I just, at the end of the day, Brandon will say, you're acting just like Michael. You're acting just like your dad. And I really sit and reflect, and I'm like, you know, just knowing his story and just the confidence like he instilled in me, like I can't help but to be his daughter and be just like him, you know?
I love that.
Yeah. It's really good to watch. It's really
A
fun
little
to
mini
watch that
Michael.
together. When I think about,
Is it Kobe?
I was actually gonna go there.
Like,
I knew it.
It's one of those things, like I grew up always like watching TV and very much into like pop culture, and I would always share with people like, you know, I grew up in church and seeing people around like community, but I never really knew what they did. So to me, they were just like, yeah, that's, you know, Brother Lewis at church or Sister Love. You know, that if you weren't a teacher or working at the school, like I didn't know what you did. Like I knew my mom like worked in retail and then worked in banking. I knew my dad worked in like the large manufacturing, you know, type of work. But outside of that, I was just like, these just folks, right? And so to me, when I was looking at something, I just knew people who were either on TV, on radio, etc. That was like a very, very big deal. And so I remember, you know, being a kid, falling in love with sports, and really like always thinking about sports as like this avenue, right? Like that you could change like the trajectory of your life and your family's life. And so, I fell in love with like watching Michael Jordan play and what he represented for the game and the culture, and the shorts, the shoes, the bald head. I actually shaved my head because in 2012 we were reliving and seeing like all of the replays of the Dream Team from 1992.
Olivia, right?
Yeah, we announced Lauren was pregnant with Michael Jordan's like iconic "I'm back" press release.
I remember reading, I was like, what here? Yeah, these two.
But that was always just like, oh my gosh, and it was never like I want to be Mike, but it was like the way that Mike like lived and impacted like so many things. And again, like living in the moment, you don't realize how far and widespread like the reach is, and truly iconic. But I remember, and I had this conversation with a couple of folks, but mainly I'm thinking about Clark Stroud, and during our time at OU, and we're talking about Michael Jordan, LeBron James, and Kobe Bryant, and he's like, you got to put this into context, right? Like, we have Michael Jordan here. There's no social media. There's barely people getting, there's barely the TVs and airtime.
Right.
And this man signs up to go to the Olympics, goes overseas, and is walking around and sees literally a full-scale portrait of himself on a building.
Wow.
In a community he had never been to.
Wow.
And just understanding, like, the impact. I was like, all right. I see it.
Yeah.
I see it.
So I have a really funny story about Michael Jordan. So I remember my dad, when he was playing for the Phoenix Suns, they played the Bulls.
Mm-hmm.
And on the way to the game, I said, Daddy, I want Michael Jordan's team to win.
It'd be your own kid.
So I remember, like, I just did. I remember telling him, I was horrible. First of all, I didn't even know what was going on. Y'all like know me. I don't know. Yeah, I don't even know what's going on with sports. But I don't know. It's just because, like you said, he was like culture. It was more than just the basketball. So I was like, I just want Michael Jordan to win. And I remember telling him that on his team, out of all the team, we leaving him on it. I was like, my favorite player is Charles Barkley. And he's like, and I used to be like, and I'm gonna marry him. Like,
Sir Charles.
He actually like bought me this little promise ring. I thought we was like,
oh,
but then it was like weird and like really gross because like I play with his daughter, so it's like, girl, you can't be.
You couldn't marry my daddy.
Marry my daddy, like, yeah, I don't know, it was weird, but I thought it was just possible. So can y'all describe like, and I don't know, this can be from any time, maybe in college or in marriage or whatever, however you want to answer this question, but a time that you had to overcome like a really tough obstacle and what that was and like how you overcame.
Yeah. You want me to start or you want to start?
You got it.
Yeah, I was going to give it to you. Yeah, the thing that I'll elevate here is really, so I didn't want to move back to Tulsa. I did not want to come back to Tulsa.
Where did you live?
We were in Oklahoma City at the time, but I wanted, so when I was...
we were going to what, Houston?
Exactly. It was either Houston, Dallas, or Washington, D.C.
Oh, we live in all three, but...
Like, that is what we had talked about, just based on, like, her trajectory after law school and thinking about, like, culturally and just living, like, our best life, right? It would be in those places. And I just... Even taking a step back, like I remember literally 8th grade, like having these conversations outside Madison Middle School, and it was me and a group of my friends, and we're just like, all right, the definition of success is we're getting out of here. Like we are getting out of Tulsa. It's not a job, a career, a college. It's just like we got to get out of here.
Yeah.
And so when Lauren interned here, and she was like, oh my God, like there's something in Tulsa. Like she just kept talking about it, and I was like, I don't believe you.
You made him.
Yeah. And she kept saying like, give it a chance. And so I came down one time because her firm was having like an end of the summer party, and they essentially like had put together this weekend, and I was like, oh shoot, like it really is. This is a side of Tulsa I've never seen before. But I still was like, I don't know about
Still not moving
that. Yeah. So when she told me like to come back, like that she wanted to take the job, or she was taking it because she literally didn't even ask me. She was like, I'm taking this job.
I accepted. This is where I'm going. Tell me or not.
Married already?
No. So interestingly enough, we moved here before we got married, but we had planned a full wedding in Oklahoma City.
Oh, I remember that, and I
Yeah.
didn't think I was like, oh,
So
no,
it was-
Oklahoma City.
it
You
was-
you get married at OU?
No, we got married. What's it called? Was it
Galardia Country Club.
But I was it was still very hard for me to accept like that we were coming back, even though like I started to really get into like all of the things that were, you know, community development and really like impact work here, which like is me to my core and I was excited about. But also I just never thought about Tulsa being the place that I would come back to like at this point in my life. And it was really hard. Like I'll be very honest with you, like, you know, came back and got the opportunity to start getting plugged into a lot of different things. Was really excited about that and really interested in doing the work. But there was also this piece, and it was someone else who actually put it into, like, gave me the words or the language around it. Because I was talking to them about being back here in Tulsa, and they were just like, I'm really surprised by that. I could never move back to my hometown. And we had similar upbringings, and they said, I admire you because you can go back despite, you know, whatever trauma or history that you actually left there intentionally. And he was like, I can't do that. And so I had never thought about like, oh, that's why I didn't want to come back to Tulsa.
Right.
Just thinking about all the trauma in terms of like neighborhood and place.
Right.
Thinking about the things like I literally remember in the 6th grade, the last day of school, and how it's supposed to be so exciting and such a great day, right? Like you're going into the summer, and one of our friends was killed.
Oh,
And it was just like,
where'd you go?
Madison Middle School.
Was wait a minute, Tisdale-Madison? They used to be.
Oh, sorry, yes, that was Madison.
Okay, that's what I thought. I thought
Yep,
that was.
so that's
Okay.
where we were. And just things like that, I was just like, I don't want to come back to that.
Right.
And so we moved back. We can't find an apartment downtown. We ended up moving on to Brookside. Again, a phenomenal area, but I had never experienced that as a Tulsan, right? And so all of a sudden I'm having this separation and juxtaposition of being in this flourishing, exciting time and really bubble in Tulsa. And at the same time knowing that where I grew up is not far from where I'm living now. And at the same time, when we go back to that area, it's so jarring. And I ended up in therapy for it.
Oh,
And
wow.
it was really hard to work through.
Wow.
And it was again, like talking through it with Lauren and her support, it was super helpful because one of the things that she was sharing was like, you know, this is okay. Like I went through a moment, like people know, and all of us, like, yes, I love, you know, sneakers and you know, all of the like fashion culture and whatnot. I literally just started giving things away.
Oh, wow.
Like it just was really messing with me. I was like, I have all this excess and I know like I'm doing this work, but people have so little, and it was really hard. And it was the going to the therapy and talking with friends and, you know, of course, like talking with Lauren about it, that just really helped me to get to a point where it was okay to be where I am and to have the opportunity to really impact lives in the way that I do. And it was really hard to swallow, but one of the pieces that came directly from the therapist was I am running from positions of authority and power because of what I perceived or believe people in authority, positions of authority and power, the decisions they made that affected me. And really it was, hey, if you were, or we had more people like you in positions of authority and power, it actually might be a better outcome for people who are experiencing the ripples of those decisions. And so little Brandon would have actually benefited from somebody like you being in this role. And so it took a while, and it was really difficult to swallow, but if it wasn't for, again, just love and support from Lauren, like encouraging and thinking about, you know, going to therapy and actually breaking those stigmas, like I probably would have just been like, we need to move like tomorrow. Because it was really hard.
That is really good. I guess I never thought about it on that level, but I do say, like, I didn't want to come back to Tulsa either. Brandon was more of the like, let's, you know, explore that. For me, Tulsa is where I kind of associated like death or like bad news. Because like I was a 7-year-old, I was with my grandpa when he died, and we came to Tulsa. My other grandfather also died in Tulsa. My grandmother, my cousin got murdered. Like my daddy, we came back to Tulsa, and you know, so it's just like that's what I associated with. So even though I felt like I'm beyond those traumas, which you're not, even when you think you are, especially if you have like had professional help with it. I guess subconsciously I was just like, no, there's nothing good in Tulsa. Like, it's just not, like, I don't want to be there. And I could never like explain why outside of, also from when we were younger, like Tulsa is totally different. We were younger, there weren't opportunities, there was no one like near you that were in any sort of, or you guys and me, in any sort of leadership roles, or there was no representation to like look up to. My family had a church here, but that was like the extent of leadership that I saw. Like, I didn't see like black doctors, I didn't see, all that kind of stuff. And I know, like, living in LA, we saw all sorts of different, or California, we saw all sorts of people doing all sorts of things. So it was just a total different, it was kind of like a culture shock, in a way.
An obstacle that I had to overcome?
Yes.
I think mine would be pretty recently. So Brandon knows this. Like, when I go into situations and things, I try to be very thorough and prepared. I try to be an expert in all areas. So like tennis, I was a little tennis superstar. Okay, me and my sister were Serena and Venus. It came kind of natural. My dad played, and again, trying to emulate my dad, and so we did really well as kids. I mean, even in like school and law school, like I was like, okay, if I just study enough and put the work in, like I should be successful, relatively successful. And it was, I always thought like it was a product of like how much you put into it.
Right.
So I think something that really caught me off guard, and was a really like a big obstacle for me, and again, wouldn't have gotten through it without Brandon. Honestly, being a mom.
That's like, not even funny, girl. Let me tell you, being a mom, first of all, there's no handbook. There's no way to like excel and like practice. Like, even watching your friends' kids is not enough practice to know how to do it.
It's not enough. And so Brandon and I, we had a doula who came and helped us. And recently I saw her as we're getting, preparing for our second child. And she kind of reminded me, she was like, Lauren, if you could just see yourself, how much confidence you have now versus, a year, almost 2 years ago.
Yeah.
When I tell you I was a nervous wreck, I was like, I don't know what to do. How do I become an expert? And I wanted to be an expert at being a mom before I was actually a mom. And talk about anxiety, like how will I know what to do? What if this happens to my baby? Like,
yes.
It was everything. I didn't grow up with a lot of kids. Brandon had like 10 nieces and nephews, and so it was always around kids. It was always just like naturally good with kids. And I just, as we got closer to like our due date, I just remember thinking like, what if I fail? What if I'm not good at this? What if it doesn't come naturally? What if the motherly instincts don't kick in? What if no matter how much work I put into it, it doesn't translate to me being a good mom? And like even just coming home from the hospital, I just like cried because I just felt like I was not like prepared. Like I should feel confident going into this, and I feel anything but that. But Brandon was just like my rock, and I leaned on him, and it definitely. And I will say, like, it was not instantaneous for me when people talk about like, just the connection and like knowing what to do. It wasn't there for me. Brandon had to like. I remember there's one time Olivia was choking, and like I froze, and I was so upset at myself. And Brandon's like, Lauren, and he like ran and got her, and she was okay. But I just remember just being so disappointed because like where were those instincts, and where were those feelings? But I would say it took a couple months. But Brandon, he like again just talk about leaning on him and just leading in certain aspects of parenting, and he would encourage me. He'd be like, "You're getting a little more comfortable. You're kind of dropping your shoulders a little bit. When you hold her now, it'd be like just stiff as a board." Like,
no one touch me.
I know. He was like, "You're starting to get a little more comfortable." And sure enough, it took a while, but I got there. I absolutely love motherhood, but that was probably the first thing in my life where like I went into it and I was like, I don't know if I'm gonna be good at this.
Yeah.
So.
No, I agree with that. So I had kind of two different experiences as becoming a mother, because it's like I had Bailey so young, so when I had BB 9 years later, it felt like I was becoming a mom for the first time all over again. And I had really bad postpartum depression with BB to the point where we were living in Houston, but I like one night just like, Brandon, you have to take me to Tulsa. Like, I don't know, book a flight, something. I gotta go to Tulsa. Like I need to be with my mom. Like I can't do this. He was working at the time. He was training with Trent, and Trent has this thing that is so lovely, where he loves to go to the gym at like midnight to like 4 o'clock in the morning because no one's gonna be in there but
Sounds
him.
about right.
And it drives me insane. Sometimes it's 6 o'clock in the morning if you catch him on a good day. And so I would just like through the night with a newborn by myself and Bailey, and it would just be like, I mean, Bailey would be asleep, but still it was just like I had like all these thoughts of like, what if I fall asleep and I drop him? What if I roll over on him? What if I like I don't know. I just always just was so afraid I was gonna like break him. And then Brandon or BB, he was born I think just like 2 weeks or maybe a week earlier than what we planned for, but he still was only 5 pounds. He was the smallest baby I ever had. And they still say like he was full term, but he was tiny with a big head. And so I was like, what am I gonna do with this little baby? And like I remember I started kind of like rubbing off on Brandon too, because one time we both were like, I mean, you're so exhausted after you have a baby and you come home. And so he's laying there with BB on his chest and he starts to fall asleep, and like my mom comes in and BB's starting to like lean into his arm, and I'm like laying like, so he would have been like you know, like nestled right between us, but like it would have been like the best for him to be there. And so it like just freaked me out. I woke up, I was like, oh my God. And then, you know, Brandon woke up freaking, it was bad. So that was like a really tough time. And I think that, you know, I really prayed a lot when I was pregnant with Boston, because I was like, I cannot go back through that, like, postpartum depression. And I didn't plan for Boston, so it was like, I really don't want to be back in this situation. So, and when I had Boston, like, nothing. Like, it was just like, okay, I know what to do. I was concerned with having another boy. But I am happy now, though, because they're like besties. It's kind of crazy in my house. It never stays clean, but I do my best.
We get, what do you think? We get like 3 hours of a clean house like every 2 weeks.
Do you guys clean it yourself, or do you guys?
No, I definitely believe in outsourcing as much as possible.
I find joy in cleaning my house, but I used to love outsourcing it.
Brandon,
but it hurts when they mess it up.
I have always been like team get your house professionally clean, outsource as you can. And so when Brandon and I got married, I was like, we really need someone, because oh my God, he would just nag me. He's like, Lauren, when you clean, it's not like a thorough.
Yeah, she was like
you
picking up.
Brandon used to do that to me.
She was like picking up. I was like, you're not cleaning.
That's what he was saying. He said you picked up.
You're not like cleaning.
But Brandon, I have a video that popped in my memories, y'all. This crazy man literally had one hand with the couch.
I would never.
Oh, like, you want me to do that? Like, I'm sorry that I'm not 200 and whatever pounds in alignment. Like, that's just not in my ability.
It's not happening. And Brandon would get like stressed out. Like, it would change his mood when the house was started. I mean, it was never like dirty. It was just, you know, a little clutter here and there. And so finally, I convinced him. He was so against, you know, getting a professional cleaning service.
Why?
And
so we never had it growing up. It was always like this thing of like
laziness.
Well, it was more of like this is what you do, like
you
to take care of your house, like you clean it up. But I just never thought about it from the standpoint of like, this is also taking care of your house.
You're taking care of it's more time with your family, it's less stress. And like, you know, I believe like when you are well rested, have less stress, like you're a better spouse, parent, person. So to the extent possible, you can get these off our plate. The first time we got that cleaning service, Brandon was like, "Oh, I'm never going back.
Never going
back. We've been
like
faithful every other week."
We started off with monthly, and then as Olivia got more creative,
So we do it like, so we're kind of like during like busier times that I know, like kind of okay, we know this summer we're not gonna be able to do what kids doing. They have their schedules, we have our schedules. We'll have someone come, but excuse me, I really like enjoy it. So I'm like that weird person that oh my gosh,
you put on some music, you get to go.
I watch on Instagram like mopping
I knew you were gonna say this.
or like housekeeping.
That's how you
so
relax?
This reminds me.
Yes, like it's like a massage for my mind. I love to watch car detailing, and I like to watch.
What?
Yes.
I've never heard of
My
it.
friend Bianca. Bianca literally will watch. She will put on YouTube videos of people cleaning their apartment and then clean her apartment. She's like, look, we're doing this together.
Yeah.
And I'm
they
like,
give so many
B.
good tips on like products to buy and like ways to get stuff like super clean.
Yeah.
How to make your house smell certain ways.
Oh my
I'm always
God.
like, I need to order all the. Brandon's like, if another Amazon package comes to this house with some cleaning supplies, I'm like, listen, you have to get the scrub daddy. You have to get the. Is that this like this electrical? I know I'm super excited right now. This electrical like cleaner for the tub, so that you don't have to bend over. And it's like a long thing. You just like plug it up. I was like, so I've like put all my friends on that like to clean. I mean, it's just like me and one other person. But I'm like, girl, did you see that? Like, super excited.
She almost had me, and then I was like, but then I have to.
Yeah,
use
you'd
it.
have to.
But it's
So
like nice to have it too, though, because if you ever just want to do like a quick clean, but you don't want to have to bend over, because bending over like 30
It's
plus
for the birds.
bending over
It's
don't
for the
work.
birds. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
well, you're not 30 yet, are you?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay.
Me too.
That's
Yeah.
okay.
We had
But thanks, girl.
I thought like, a little younger than that, but I can't remember like how much.
we had the moment where it's like, should we be doing this or should we be cleaning this house? And I thought about it similar to you, because I was like, it gives me a sense of, I love, and it's really, I've started to lean more and more into this, like, with the type of work that I do, like the projects become more and more complex, and so they're so long term.
Right.
And so just to be able to start something and finish it,
Uh-huh.
I'm like, oh, give it to me. So
Yes,
folding
it makes you
clothes,
feel fulfilled.
yeah, cleaning the house, like those different
I
things.
wanted it.
But the more we added on, like, you know, different things in life, it's like, I actually don't think I have the time. Like, so I could spend the time doing this, or I could spend, you know, the money for it, and then like you do
Get
the
my
money.
time back.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
it's like, you know what? All right, Lauren, I'll kick it with you, or hang out with Olivia versus trying to get y'all to fold all the laundry.
So y'all don't do like Saturday morning, let's clean. Dang it.
We do.
Maybe
Maybe when she
later,
gets
like,
older. Yeah, when the
not
kids get
now,
older, because
no.
right now, no matter what, I mean, 6:30 comes and she's like, "Hey,
What y'all doing?
what y'all doing? Like, I'm ready to hang out."
Right, no, that's what I tell Boston. Like,
Yeah.
I asked him in the morning, I'm like, Boston, you're up? Yeah, the sun's up. I'm like,
Yeah, yeah.
that's not the time that you're supposed to get up all the time. Because he'll get up, it don't matter. If the sun is up, that boy is like, time for me to get up. I'm here for 5:30. Like,
So I used to pop up on Saturdays and I would clean both of our cars.
Yeah.
I would gas them up. I would do some chores around the house. It just felt like really productive, like almost getting prepared for the next week. And now it's just like
I want to sleep and not do
Yeah.
nothing. How
Yeah.
about that? That's also productive.
Yes, it is.
or I want to go for a walk. Like
Yeah.
because it's been so hot, like we've been waking up early on Saturdays and we'll go to the park. So we'll get Olivia dressed, put a collar on Coco, and
Yeah.
just go to the park and hang out as a family.
Yeah, I love that.
Mhm.
We tried to do that on Saturday. However, we waited till I was like, oh, it's 10 o'clock, it's good.
No, bro.
Went to the zoo and like was melting. I was like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, no,
Yeah.
this is more like a 7 o'clock outing. This
Yeah.
is not a 10 o'clock. But I don't know. I
Kinda too
guess.
late.
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
I just felt like I was like, I'm gonna get up and make breakfast, and then we're gonna go. We were there for like 45 minutes. I'm like, we've been here for a long time, kids. They're like, no, we haven't. I'm like, it's too hot. We're gonna pass
I
out.
took Olivia one time and I was like, I think all of the animals are sleeping.
Well, and that was the biggest thing. We went from like a few exhibits, and like the animals were not
Yeah,
there.
they're like, it's too hot.
And I'm like, well, the animals might like die if they come out to this. So.
Think about those poor polar bears.
I know. Well, there's not anymore, really.
No,
I'm like,
no.
polar bears, do they still exist? Do
Well-
koalas still exist?
Do who?
Koala bears?
Yeah, they're not extinct.
Pandas? We close on that.
Panda dunks.
Nope, but not the
You
animals.
don't got any panda dunks?
What's that?
Shoes.
Yeah, no,
Shoes.
I don't.
Black
Brandon, I
shoes.
don't have any cool shoes. You have to like help me. My shoes are all
Let's do
like,
it. I think there's a lot of really cool things that you look really great in.
Okay.
Just go for all things Joe Fresh Goods and New Balance,
Okay.
and you're solid.
I never buy. I don't even know what Joe Fresh Goods are, and I
Oh
don't
man,
buy.
so Joe Fresh Goods out of Chicago,
Mhm.
dope.
What is it? It's a store?
It's a designer.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Mhm.
See what I know.
Yeah,
I'm
he's
like,
sick.
Fashion It's like the extended fashion.
That's
I mean,
too funny.
I just want to buy accessories. Like that's all I'm like looking at. I'm like, is this a designer? Her name is Melody Esani.
I know exactly what you're
I want to be her friend. Melody, I want to be your friend. And I know you're watching this. And I actually had a dream. I put it in my phone under my
Aww.
dreams and thoughts from God. list on my notes, and I was like, we're gonna be friends, we're gonna do collaboration. Anyway,
Well, you gotta get ready.
well, she just did one with Jordan, like with the Jordan brand. So,
That's why I know exactly what you're talking about.
I love her. Like, I have this Tiffany Nicole earrings, and people always like, where'd you get those? And I'm like, I got them custom on first night. Like, she's dope. So,
You gotta get ready.
I am. I received that. Yes, and amen. So the last question I always ask everybody is, what is your recipe for life?
Honestly, surrounding yourself by great people. Like, it's one of the key ingredients. I would not be where I am today without, like-minded folks, great friends. I mean, our time in Tulsa would not have been what it has. I don't think we'd be the people we are without just really great supportive friends in our life. Just be a great partner, be a great friend, be a great mother. I mean, that's really like what I aspire to be remembered as. It's not really, at this point in my life, it's not like the professional accolades anymore or who I am like on paper as a resume. I just want to be remembered as just like a great person who contributed and was there for others. I think those are the ingredients for my life right now. I mean, the recipe may change, but at this time and this season, that's really what I'm focusing on.
That's beautiful.
It is. I love it. You know something you guys taught me
Look at you.
years ago? I don't know when this was a while ago, but you said, and Brandon said it to me because we were talking about marriage, and you were like, nobody always does.
Yep.
It was, how did you put it?
Yeah. Nobody always or never.
Yes, you told me that. And I was like, and so I literally like always think about that when I'm like talking to Brandon, and I want to be like, you are.
Yeah.
Brandon said nobody always
or never.
does.
Yep.
Yeah, because you want to jump to that, but
Man.
it's like you have to listen to seek to understand when you're married, because
Man.
as much as you want to come back, especially somebody like me, an Aries, fire.
Yes,
Like, first of all, yes,
Yes.
you want to be like, first of all, you wrong, because and it's like,
Man.
mm-mm.
Brandon,
No comment.
Brandon knows. Like, you don't want to argue with me.
No, I was thinking about when you were talking about law school. That I remember after that first semester, I was like, I'm done. Like, I can't argue with you anymore because you're bringing in all
Now
these.
you know how to profess.
Yeah, exactly.
You
I was like,
you're
I
right,
don't-
you're wrong.
Yeah, like I don't
You're
got
like,
it.
well, I can go to
Yeah.
court case against this, whatever you're saying, sir.
The only thing I always try to go back to was what was it? The common man or the what was it?
That was a reasonable.
The reasonable man. I was like, what would the reasonable man say?
What is that?
It was a law school thing that they had to like.
It was like a
concepts.
standard, yeah. I'm thinking about like criminal and other things, like what would a reasonable person in that situation like perceive or believe or do, and then you base like that person's conduct off of the reasonable man.
Oh, interesting. So initially at OU, I was like, I'm gonna be an attorney.
It's not too late. Actually, don't
It's
do
never
I
too
discourage
late.
everyone from going to law school.
Do
Don't
y'all
do
think
it.
I would be a good attorney?
I'm gonna go say my recipe for life.
I'll be like, see now because
My recipe
You're
for life.
he's like, on that note.
I'm trying to help you, B. I'm trying to help you.
You don't want the trouble.
Yeah, trust
Another
me. You
Aries
don't want
attorney.
that. Yeah, I would say my recipe for life is really, it's the things that you don't see that truly make the meal. Like, it's the things that are more felt and experienced. And so, yes, you can follow the ingredient list and come up with a beautiful meal, but really what people taste and what people like leave with is those things that are like not easily seen.
So it's not the fact that you are a great, talented singer or dancer or painter or attorney, but it's how you made the person feel, what they left with from that experience. It's not what was seen by the eye, but the feeling they left with.
Yeah.
That's so good. I love that. Well, this has been great, and I appreciate you guys so much. I really enjoyed this conversation, and thank you all for tuning in and listening to this episode of Recipe for Life. Bye!
Bye.
Bye.